Good afternoon, Commissioners. John. Oh, sorry.
This is item number 15, application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, docket number 15-5402, block 1021, lot 19, 1619 Broadway, the Brill Building, an individual landmark, an Art Deco-style office building designed by Victor A. Bark, Jr. and built in 1930 to 31. This is an application to alter the ground floor and install storefronts and to install signage. And this was last presented on May 13th, and at that time you asked the applicants to restudy some components, and the applicants are back today with some revisions.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. John Graham of Landmark staff. The photographs before you are historic photographs of the Brill Building. As early as 1935, this building had signage on the roof and also a varied collection of signage along the street facades. When they were here before, there were two components that you asked them to look at again. They had to do, and they are shown at the bottom of this shot with the signage. That's the signage on the 49th Street side, and this is the signage on the Broadway facade, and about opening up the array of signage to provide more space where you could see glimpses of the historic terracotta and the underlying facade. There was also a question concerning the door surrounds in the new master plan, and so this is the Broadway facade, and the door surrounds are shown here. These would be added. This is, of course, the historic door surround, the main entrance. And there was some concern about the weight of the door surround and how they integrated with the rest of the proposed storefront infill. And so that proposal has been modified to extend the openings so that the framing extends up to the underside of the brass rod sign band. So those were the two areas where you were asking the applicant to go back, and Shelley Friedman will start the discussion.
Okay, we'll open the hearing for that purpose with these. Motion second. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Shelley Friedman, I only want to briefly discuss the signage aspect of this. Jonathan will then take you through the signage and the ground floor. We have been talking with the Commission off and on over the course of the years about the right equilibrium between to reach with regard to the billboard signage attached to the building. On the one hand, there is the architecture that we need to honor as an individual landmark, and it should be honored. And on the other side of the fulcrum, there's the community in which this building sits, which also is important to the city as a major tourist destination, and that simply being in Times Square. If we go too far on one end, we end up with a lot of very good architecture, but a very dark hole in the Times Square motif that this building has always contributed to since it was built. If we err on the other side and festoon it with billboards, then we've also lost, because we've lost visual access to an important piece of architecture. So we're still trying to draw the line. We're really ready to have a discussion that we hope kind of changes the paradigm a little bit. We have been talking to you about our need for signage and the maximum amount of signage that we need. We have in this presentation shifted that. We're trying to show you how much of the architecture we have opened up. In the course, certainly with regard to our original application, but even since our last presentation. Jonathan will be able to show you that there are considerable elements of the architecture which we have opened up, and in our opinion, we have now opened up as much of the architecture as we possibly can, and still maintain the necessary dimensions and technology that we need to apply signage to this building. So hopefully you'll agree that we have a equilibrium. That as Jonathan to take it.
Good. Thank you very much. And John, if not limit it, but focus on what we saw before, what we said, what the reaction was, and how you've modified it in response to that.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Commissioner. Jonathan Marvel, Marvel Architects. Thank you, Shelley. Thank you, John, for the introduction. So these are refreshers for what is there. Your comments were, let's be sensitive to the historic door on the Broadway side primarily, and let's try to expose as much of the architectural ornamentation as possible. So I would like to just start with the storefronts and how we have made them more delicate and made them narrower and taller, and I think it has improved a great deal. This is a proposed in May, and this is proposed today. The previous punched openings were smaller and wider. We've now gone from pavement to the underside of the signage grille with a full opening. The clear story and the doors are now fully set back. They're also a foot narrower from 8.6 to 7.6 in the entire opening, so the proportions have changed. We've also removed the corner brass elements there and also on the corner, so now we have a glazed corner in all of these opening conditions, so that the brass itself is now featured but pushed back as far as possible. And that is in the here, 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 and here. Some of the detailing, so you can see the previous image, we had the lower and wider, and so we've taken that and we've pushed it all the way up to the very top of the underbelly of the signage. We've made it narrower in terms of its style. We've also made those glass corners clean and simple. We've also butt glazed the joints here so that the mullion is behind the glass instead of flush with the glass. So we have a cleaner, more modern, sleeker look, and that's what you were looking for. Again, it's a foot narrower in its width, and I think much more go-away condition, so we're not competing with the historic doors. The 49th Street elevation, we're changing that to the new version. We've reduced and made the glass sizes larger, so there's less mullions, less interruption. We're keeping the option open to instead of putting the door here, it could go in any one of these other two locations. But we've kind of simplified, and we've also now aligned them with the windows above. So there's a new alignment condition as well, and that really is repeated again on the Broadway elevation. We're now aligning the bays. We've got larger glazing systems. We are carrying that ability to make other retail sensitive locations as part of the master plan. Would also like to add that on the signage tray, we've now gone from a flat face to a ribbed face. So we've taken the best of the kind of solid bar stock of brass that made and characterized the new proposed canopy. I think very exciting. We've now repeated that in the underbelly here. So now this is a series of vertical rods that kind of carry that shadow line and detail and break down the shininess, again, making this more of the jewel in the crown. In terms of the signage, just globally, we have made the signage is now 650 square feet smaller than the previous proposal, and we've increased the visibility of the architectural elements by close to 10% in each case. So the before and after on the Broadway elevation, you can see how we've now lowered these tops, particularly here and here. We've also lowered the corner sign as well, and on the 49th Street elevation, we've lowered from here, we've lowered it down to here, and in general, and the numbers of the percentages are in the sidelines to talk about how that is now different. So here are the renderings, which will show that you've got a lot more of that visible, particularly on the Broadway elevation, up on top, as well as down below. You know, we've also dropped it down here so that that cornice line continues all the way around. We've dropped this one to fully expose the precast panel, and I think this is much improved, and so thank you for your vote.
Okay. Thank you, John. Questions, anyone? Any further questions? Let's discuss it right away. Fred, please. Thank you.
Perfect. It's now the right amalgam, as Shelley was suggesting, between seeing enough of the building to appreciate this fine building, but still having enough signs to be a legitimate part, contributing part of Times Square. So I think all these little tweaks were well worth it, from my point of view at least, and it's certainly approvable now.
Michael.
I agree. Well done.
I agree 100%. I want to draw attention to the changes to the storefront, which made it much lighter. And at the same time, by having the mullions and the bay system align better with what's happening up above, it's more integrated with the building above. I think that the addition of detail to the signage marquee is also very welcome. I think in general it's gotten to be a tighter, better project that will really, I think, stand for to show that the landmarking of an individual landmark building does not in any way stand in the way of making this building a part of the Times Square district.
I agree with the comments, and I think the reduction in the signage, it's not so much the size of the signs that needed to be reduced, it was that they were too regular. And I think the irregularity actually is much more consistent on the one hand with what you see in Times Square, but on the other, the added benefit is that you see more of the architectural features behind, and so kind of both sides win. And then the reduction in the intensity of the storefront, I think, is much improved. I still have a little bit of concern about the competition between the signage awning and the main entrance, but it's okay.
Yeah, I think that all of the changes that have been made were very responsive to our comments, and in fact, the breakup of the signage so that there was more of the facade evident, and the treatment of the corner, and I think the elevation of the storefronts, aspects of them works much better in this new rendering, and I think it's much more successful for the building, so I'm very happy with it. Thank you.
I think it's so much better. I like it. I think that the storefronts are cleaner and there's less competition between the existing entrance and the storefronts. And even the corner, while I think the corner is the corner and it's always going to stand out, I just think that it works a little better.
Okay, so you had a challenge on your hands from the beginning, and once the building was designated a few years back, very few years back, but you not only had the Times Square history, not just today's Times Square, but the 1934 Times Square to evoke, and I think you've now successfully evoked it in a way that also meets the appropriateness test. For me, I mean, just generally, to have a building that was designated within the last 7 years, and then to come forward today in this state, similar to the terminal stores earlier today in Chelsea, is very rewarding to see, because it can, as someone just said, at times it all can coexist. It can work, the buildings can work, and also be adaptively reused and found and made with appropriate change. So, and this is a particular change. If you can do it on this one, you can do it on pretty much any one I can think of. So, with that, we'll close the hearing. And if you would do this, please, Roberta. Number.
It's in the matter of 1619 Broadway, the Brill Building, individual landmark. Application is to alter the ground floor and install storefronts and to install signage. I recommend approval, finding that the proposed demolition of the existing storefronts on the West 49th Street service entrance will not cause damage to or eliminate any historic fabric. That the proposed storefront alterations will reestablish unity and transparency at the ground floor, which is a typical feature of early 20th century buildings of this type. That the proportions of the bulkheads, glass, and metal doors, display windows, and sign bands are similar to the proportions seen in various historic images of the ground floor and will be in keeping with historic storefronts found on buildings of this age and type. That the black granite cladding and ribbed bronze detailing at the new main entrance and the storefront will recall the historic main Broadway entrance and will help to unify the base of the building. That extending the new storefront doors up to the bronze ribbed sign band will help to unify the storefront infill. That the rib cladding, bronze detailing, and inset address numbers at the new 49th Street entrance to the upper floors will be an elegant 21st century reflection of the main Broadway entrance. That there is ample historic precedent for extensive advertising signage both on the second and third floors of the street facades and at the roof of this building. That signage on buildings within Times Square has historically been upgraded as the available technology has changed. That the installation of the proposed signs will be in keeping with the Times Square location of this individual landmark, as well as with the character of the electrified signs, projecting signs, billboards, and marquees which existed on this building at different times and will help to reinforce the relationship of this building to its site. That the placement of the signs recalls the ad hoc appearance of the historic signage that was placed on the facades of the building over different periods of time. That the signage at the second and third floors has been designed to avoid damage to the finely detailed terracotta banding at these floors, and its placement and size will leave portions of the terracotta banding visible from the street. That the paired billboards on the roof are consistent with this building being at one of the intersections on Broadway, which makes the signs visible from any direction. And that the proposed paired billboards on top of the building and behind the parapet will be located where large billboards have existed previously, and given the context in Times Square where there is a what is it?
Cacophony, is it spelled correctly? Cacophony.
Cacophony of signs. This installation will not overwhelm or diminish the historic character of the building.
Mixed metaphor there. Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approved, thank you. That